give me your attention now. There's a lot of information that's going to be disseminated today about the Ireland trip, and I'm sure many after the meeting will have some questions. So we'll give you the opportunity to ask some of those questions, but more than anything, we're going to go through some specific details about the itinerary. You're going to get an electronic copy of this itinerary and this information within the next day. You will also get a permanent tour book or travel book next week when you show up when we show up to leave, but we're not going to give those out today because we don't want folks losing those tour books. So we'll give you an electronic copy of the information first. You can look over it and ask questions. Okay, beforehand, I'd like to make a few introductions. Some folks that are going to be very important that you get to know if you don't already. Those of you who are real upperclassmen that went to Macy's with us already know Jeff Kerr from Music Travel Consultants. Jeff is the gentleman who we have worked through to organize this trip for us. And so Jeff and his staff and his team at Music Travel Consultants, please listen to me. Okay, I don't have everybody's attention, and that's not good. It's Jeff's team that's going to be working with us, and he will have representatives from Music Travel with us every step of the way, from the time we leave here to the time we get back. The entire time we're in Ireland, there will be folks there from Music Travel. He's been working with a travel company in Ireland called Abbey Tours, and they will have representatives in Ireland on the ground there to help us. So, we're in very good hands. When Jeff and Music Travel took us to Macy's, the trip came off without a hitch, and I'm sure you'll find that this will be the same for us. That said, we have 509 people, I think, 506 people traveling with the All-American Marching Band to Ireland. And that includes all parents, all alumni. We actually have a vice president from Purdue, Dr. Exum, is going on this trip. We have a member of our board of trustees who is traveling with the All-American Marching Band on this trip. We have some really high-profile Purdue people who will be with us in Ireland the entire time. So we feel very honored to have these people with us, but it's also going to be a major undertaking to make 506 people travel safely and smoothly through Ireland. And that's why it's really important that you listen to these details. For those of you who understand what I'm talking about, and you might want to communicate this to your parents and your guests that are going on this trip, this is a band trip. This is a band trip. This is not a family vacation. And so if everybody understands that going into it, they'll understand that the top priority of this trip is our performance at the end of the week in the parade. You know as well as I do that every band trip is unlike any family vacation you've ever taken. It really is. It takes a great deal of organization. It really takes everybody pitching in and lending a hand. And so that's where families who don't travel with bands much may need some education. And so we're going to just ask you to do that a little bit. In the meantime, I'm going to turn the microphone over to Jeff. He's going to talk to you a little bit, and then I'm going to turn it over to Matt, and he's going to take you through some things in this PowerPoint presentation. So give your undivided attention, please, to Jeff Kerr.
A couple things. Number one, thank you very much. And I'll kind of just jump into it because I know we are all on schedules and stuff. Passports. We have to turn in for the charter to the charter company passport numbers, expiration dates, and information from your passport that you are to have given to Pat. I think she's still missing about 30 some of them. That all has to be cleared. Okay, through customs, the United States, and the no-fly list and all that stuff. If that's not done, you're not going. Okay, just Just want to make sure. I don't want to be doom and gloom to start with, but just to make sure, okay? So please make sure. A couple things real fast before we jump into the itinerary. This is getting on the plane. You must have your passport, obviously. When you're going through security, make sure that you always any type of liquids that you have are in the small bottles. Okay, if they're in the bigger bottles, they'll take them from you. Okay, you're going to have to take off your shoes, you're going to have to take off your belt. I'm sure some of you have flown recently and know that you have to do all that stuff. The other thing is, heaven forbid, you would jokingly say something stupid or do something stupid, but we did have a trip recently of high school kids that one of the students, actually on the way down and on the way back from Orlando, said something stupid, and security people took him both times. And luckily there was a guidance counselor on the trip to defray the situation. They got him on the plane. But anyway, I'm sure he's one of the favorites of his band director. So please make sure. One thing that's going to be great on this is that the luggage is going on a truck. The instruments are going on a truck. They'll go right to the plane. The drum will go right to the plane. When we land in Shannon, the instruments and drum will go to the truck, but the luggage will come off the carousel. So there'll be just kind of stuff like that. And then that's what will happen on the way when we get back to Indianapolis. The luggage and instruments will go on a truck, come back to Purdue. If you're not, there's a few of you, and Courtney and I are working on this as far as people not coming back to Purdue, but we'll have a plan for those suitcases. The other thing is, just as I said, just make sure you're flexible on things, because with this many people, as Dr. Gebhardt said, things could change in a heartbeat. We may need to adjust things and stuff like that, and we'll try and make things run as smooth as possible. And we'll go ahead and get into the itinerary, and I'll have some more stuff later. But anyway, here we go. So kind of follow along on this.
In the interest of time, I've cut a lot of the sarcasm out of this particular itinerary presentation. So please just roll me on this, and again, continue to provide attention. Jeff and then other members of the staff will jump in if there's anything that needs to be just clarified or adjusted. And again, we will save questions for the very end of this. The things that we have to go through are the rehearsal schedule and check-in procedures before we leave, the itinerary itself, how we're handling attendance throughout this. We really don't want to get any of you lost in another country. Some travel advice and packing tips, some health considerations, and basic expectations of conduct for our band when we go anywhere, let alone out of the country, and then Q&A at the very end. For Friday, March 8th, all instruments and equipment that are going to Ireland need to be relocated to Lowe Playhouse over in the Stewart Center. Dr. Nate and Ops will be coordinating those equipment moves. That communication has already been going. Pam, is there anything that we need to clarify or special help that you need in advance of this right now?
She just had to step out. The answer is no.
Nothing yet?
Okay.
Okay. All right. That's easy enough. Any small instruments that you currently are storing in small band lockers can be accessed on Saturday, but for the large instruments that are, especially the ones that are stored in 15 and 30, you will not have access to those on Saturday because All-State Band moves into Elliott starting at noon on Friday. So we are hosting a couple hundred high school students and directors, so please understand that Elliott is not exclusively ours that weekend in the band side of things. This has already been addressed. As soon as possible, provide your passport information. On Saturday, March 9th, our rehearsal runs from 4 to 6 p.m. This is the only rehearsal we have for this trip, so we really need you there. You'll meet at Lowe Playhouse, not Elliott. You need to dress for an outdoor parade rehearsal, rain or shine. We will practice this. The parade is 2 miles long, so we want to at least dust off the low chair a little bit beforehand. Your parade rep is Celebration of Hail Purdue, but we do want you to bring your full season music folder to that rehearsal because we are also going to prep our castle performance in Kilkenny. Playlist is forthcoming for that one, so that will help you limit that. So check your email over the course of the next week to receive that. After that rehearsal, all instruments and large equipment that we are taking, except for luggage, will need to be loaded on the box trucks. Ops will be working with this, but it is your responsibility to make sure that your instrument is accessible for loading. Don't hide it between the seats. Listen very carefully for those instructions. We may need some extra help moving this around. We'll find out in a little bit. Check your email next week, and if help is needed, we do ask that you stick around for that extra half hour to make sure this is done smoothly. We do do not have the time on Sunday to be wasting on instrument moving. Anything else, Pam, on this?
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay.
Let me just yell. Okay, guys, when we are in Ireland, you are responsible for your own luggage and your own equipment. Ops will be at every bus to help you put it on there, but it is your job to get it on the right bus. It is your job to make sure your instrument and your luggage gets on the bus. They will not pack and unload for you at all. Okay, so you're responsible for your own things. Do you understand? Yes, sir. Any questions about that? Okay.
Okay, thank you. Moving forward. Parking on the day of departure. The top of the University and Grant Street garage is where you should park for this one. That is the closest garage to Stewart Center. If you park on any level other than the top, you'll be paying for any tickets you pick up over the course of that week. That's what I was told this morning, so let's correct it.
The only garage I got permission for is University Street Garage.
Thank you very much.
I did not ask about Grant Street Garage.
And actually, there is a garage at University and Grant. More look at this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, but I'm retired.
Thanks, Courtney. University Street Garage. The one by Elliott, and then walk across campus. And park at the top level so you don't get tickets. That's still true. We're moving to the next slide now. Check-in procedures. You'll start at 2 o'clock. This is where our check-in time now begins. Also note that daylight savings time begins that day. Springfield. So, enter the front door to load. You'll go through the lobby, Stewart Center with your luggage. The check-in line will take you through the audience up to the stage. At check-in, you will receive your itinerary booklet, which also has a label indicating which hotels you are staying at, which medieval dinner, which medieval banquet you are attending, and a couple other bits of information. We will check to make sure that you have your passport on hand at this point. If it is stowed in your luggage, you're going to have a very bad time with this. We also will be tagging your luggage. Later on today, you will be receiving some luggage tags that will need to go on certain items, and that will be addressed a little bit later. But we will be putting labels on those tags at check-in relative to your hotels. That way we have an easier time making sure your suitcases get to you at your next hotel. We have 3 different hotel stays, 3 different cities we're staying in on this trip. I may ask for help from the commissioned officers, depending on how many people we have available to do that check-in. Liz will communicate that out with me if there's any more information we need at this point.
The itinerary booklet is going to be critical throughout your entire trip. It's very important that you keep your itinerary booklet because, as Matt said, it's going to have vital information for you throughout the trip. It will have information about which hotels you're staying in on the trip, and you're going to need that information to know what buses to get on. Okay, it's also going to have your trip ID number on it, which you're going to need to memorize, and he'll talk a little bit more about that. But I cannot stress enough how important it is that you keep hold of the tour booklet that's going to look like this, and that you keep your own tour booklet. We may have some extra copies, but it's just easier for you to keep track of your tour booklet. Okay?
We need to be on the buses by 3:10 p.m. so we can make sure that we have everyone present. The check-in process does need to go very fast. As soon as you've checked in, dropped off your luggage to the box truck, just get out of the way of the rest of the check-in and stay close by. The bus list to get from here to Indianapolis will be posted in both Elliott and Loeb before we depart. They are going to mirror the bus rosters we used at the Heart of Dallas Bowl. If you are not with us at the Heart of Dallas Bowl, you have been assigned one of those buses, and you'll need to check those rosters before we leave. We need to be rolling out the door by 3:30. Our flight will leave at 7:59. Dinner will be served, and as has already been mentioned, TSA regulations apply to our flight. We will be going through the main passenger terminal. So always just stay in the area, but you're going through standard security here with this. You need to have your own carry-ons with you at this point.
Since your instruments and luggage will be put on trucks and taken to the airport, it will be taken, it will go through security, whatever they need to do, and it will be loaded on the charter. The only thing you're going to be taking on the bus with you will be your carry-on luggage. That's it. You're not going to be responsible for putting luggage under the bus and all that kind of stuff. It will already be gone. Okay, so we have the time as 2 o'clock for you to arrive, but we'd like you to get there earlier than that. Okay, so we can, just like we did when we went to Dallas, we have to load all the luggage on a truck, and we want people there so we can get that done. Okay, so earlier than 2 o'clock.
And get dinner served on the flight and also breakfast served on the plane on the 11th, so 2 meals in the air. We should arrive at 7:45 a.m., and within the hour, we should be able to transfer to Galway. That is also part of your bus tour of Galway. Going through customs on the Ireland side is actually fairly easy. I think I talked to exactly one person when I went through when I was there 2 years ago. With a bigger group, obviously there could be bigger hang-ups with this. But again, keep your passport handy and it will be easy for you. The itinerary as we go through this, you're going to see large blocks of time without tremendous detail. And that is because once we're rolling in Ireland, a lot of our itinerary is going to be based on the bus that you happen to board at that point. It's not going to be a case where we wait for 12 buses or 11 buses to be completely assembled before the whole caravan moves. It's going to be once bus one's ready to go, they roll on to the next destination. So you're going to see large gaps of time here, and that is part of the work that our Irish counterparts are going to handle when we're on tour. Each bus will have a tour guide from their company, and they will be the ones guiding you through all of these countryside visits and stops for meals and so forth. You're also going to find that as we go through this, as we've already addressed before, there are several points here where there are meals on your own, and most of the time those are lunches, and you'll just have the opportunity to find food in the small towns and various sized towns wherever we stop. So there's going to be a whole lot of go with the flow on this trip. We should be checking into our hotels at 4 o'clock that day. Just a quick view here as we go through. This is part of the area where we'll be seeing. This is Galway Bay. You'll have a chance to get maybe some better views of this than this particular picture. That night, there are 4 different groups assigned for the medieval banquet dinners at the various castles around there, and the first group of those will be going on this night. You will find out who's in each of those groups when you check in. And for everyone who is not part of this particular banquet, you will have dinner provided at your hotel that evening, and most of the time that will be around 7 p.m. This is just an example of this particular facility for the first group. The next morning, when we say full Irish breakfast, there are a lot of things that go into this, and you will have to just do your own search for this. But generally speaking, a full Irish breakfast is about a meal and a half. So if you partake in that lunch, you may not be all that interested in a hefty lunch. Usually, the breakfasts on this trip are at 7:30 a.m. There's one day where it's a little bit earlier than that. Load the buses, we'll check numbers, and then we'll leave for the Cliffs of Moher in the Burren region. Lunch will be on your own this day, and just from my own experience, there's a fair amount of walking that you'll be doing this day just to explore the various areas. I suggest that you bring some light snacks with you. You can have those in your suitcase, and then have those available. Just don't pack like fruit in your suitcase or you might have problems. The Cliffs of Moher, no picture is going to do this justice. I would suggest you take a couple pictures when you get there and then don't waste your time with it, just taking it in. The Burren region is also a very unique part of this country. So later on that day, we'll be back to our hotels 4-ish, I would imagine, and then there are a couple more shifts for the medieval banquets, and all the remaining groups will go this particular night. So if you went out to the castle the first night, you'll be eating dinner at your hotel on the second night, everyone else, and these times may be staggered again, but that is the second set of meals, and then Bunratty Castle, you'll see a lot of very similar structures in this vein. The next morning, 7:30 breakfast and check out of rooms. When you are checking out of all 3 of the hotels you'll be staying in during this trip, the way you will do this is you will leave your room keys in your rooms, and then you need to settle any incidental charges you may have accrued the night before. Please do not hold up our travel party by doing this the morning of departure at the last second. Take care of that the night before. And again, load buses, and then we'll travel to Adair. There will be free time in Adair, Kenmare, Killarney, and along the Ring of Kerry. Lunch will be on your own in one of those towns. Another just sample of part of the Ring of Kerry that you will get to see. And with all of these bus tours, there will be a fair amount of time spent on the bus, but there will also be several stops where you'll be able to get out, enjoy the scenery for a little bit, take a few pictures, stretch your legs, and then board the bus and move back through. It's pretty standard fare for a tour of this country. That evening, we'll check into the hotels in Cork, and then the dinner will be provided at all 3 of the hotels. The next morning is an early start time, and we will load the buses and then head to Cork, the downtown or main area of Cork, and also visit Blarney Castle and the Woolen Mills, which is a substantial part of this trip. We are spending a very long time that day. We'll announce what time you have to be back on the buses at the end of it. And you can choose whether it's going to be the castle first or the Woolen Mills first, so we don't completely clog either of those with a 500-member travel party. And, Water Castle, it fits the bill for the rest of this. And that's a relatively straightforward day. A lot of free time that day, a lot of time to explore. Friday the 15th, full Irish breakfast and check out in the hotel the same way we did before. We would like you to wear your Gold Day t-shirts this day because we do have a performance. The first of our 2 performances on this trip. We'll leave for Dublin by 9. We'll stop at the Rock of Cashel, Kilkenny Castle. We are giving a performance at Kilkenny Castle at 4 p.m. on Friday, March 15th. This performance will be in full uniform and it will follow the format of our Slater concerts. This particular castle is a great place for performances, a lot more space than a lot of the others that we'll be seeing and getting a chance to tour. So that'll be about a 30-minute concert. We'll pack everything back up and then continue on to Dublin. This is the only stay during this where the entire band travel party, the performers and staff members, will be staying at the same hotel. And we're at the Jury's Inn on Parnell Street on the north side of the river. This is one of the few cases where dinner is on your own. You will not have any problems finding a place to eat in Dublin at all. We're talking 2 or 3 restaurants a block during most of the major city areas. I should also point out that generally speaking, if your families are going on this trip, you are staying in the same hotels as your family members until we get to Dublin. In Dublin, they are split between 2 different hotels. Walkable, but not easily walkable in a lot of those cases. All right, and then just a view of downtown Dublin from one angle. The largest city in the country, of course, about 600,000, 700,000 people live in Dublin and its immediately surrounding areas. You're going to find that Dublin's street layout is unique, and I suggest that as soon as you get there, you pick up a map. A lot of you went to New York City, or whether it was with the band or another group. New York City has a very specific road grid where it was laid out by law. And it follows north, south, east, west until you get to Greenwich Village, the area that was older than that road grid. Dublin had no urban planning. You will find that roads will change names every block. So it's rather difficult to get your way around as a walking person without having a map handy. So that's just a suggestion from my own experience after walking around in circles for an hour. Saturday, March 16th. The full Irish breakfast that morning, load the buses, a city tour of Dublin with a stop at St. Patrick's Cathedral, just gorgeous areas to see. Lunch will be on your own. Sometime that afternoon, a visit to the Guinness Storehouse. Some free... Have fun. Free time afterward. Dinner that night will be as a full travel party, and it will be at Taylor's Free Rock. You'll get a chance to experience good food, good company, great entertainment. It'll be a fun night for you. And, of course, Sunday the 17th, the reason we're actually going on this trip, the day of the parade, the full Irish breakfast that morning, we are not checking out of our hotels first thing. We will actually do that after the parade here. There will be exact instructions and a schedule provided that morning. So, again, be waiting for that information. This will tell you how we're going to handle getting to and from the parade route. You will have breakfast provided that day. You will have a box lunch provided. The parade starts at noon. You will have some free time after the parade, and I suggest that you find a space to eat a light dinner during your free time. Dinner is provided on the flight home, but the flight doesn't take off till 10:30 p.m. So plan on a light meal on your own between the parade and checkout. We check out of the rooms at 5:30, load at 6, leave for the airport at 6:30. The flight will leave Dublin then. The parade itself, it's going to be wild. So, have fun. This is very important. Monday, March 18th, you notice that we are going through customs in Bangor, Maine. The reason that we are stopping in Maine to go through customs is this is usually the airport that a lot of our military flights will arrive through. They are designed to handle large numbers of passengers coming back in from overseas. Indianapolis International Airport is not prepared for large numbers of passengers like what will be on our flight. We will go through customs in Maine. We will unload the luggage there. You must make sure your passport is easily accessible on that flight home. It is more difficult to re-enter the United States than it is to leave. Please keep that in mind. We only have an hour and a half to take 345 people through customs. If you cause us a delay, there will be a lot of problems because then you're affecting flight schedules. You will get back to Purdue by 7 a.m. Let's get through the rest of this quickly here. Please listen, now we're getting into some specifics that you really need to know about how you have to handle either end of this trip. Your luggage will be put on box trucks and driven back here from the Indianapolis airport, and your luggage, your stowed luggage, will not arrive with you when the buses get back here. Those will probably not be back for another hour to hour and a half. So, you need to pick up your luggage on Monday the 18th on the Elliott stage between 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. We have been told by the Hall of Music staff that since they are setting up for events starting after 5, you must get your luggage and instruments off the stage sometime between 10 and 5 that day. You need to put your instruments away properly after they have been delivered back to the Elliott stage. Ops will be assisting with the truck unloading roughly at 9 a.m. on that particular day. Let's move on to how we're handling attendance, because we're in, at any given point, 2 or 3 different hotels. Our travel party will involve 11 buses. This is a logistical nightmare, and here's how we're going to handle it. At the front of your travel booklet that you will receive on the day of departure, there will be an ID number, somewhere between 1 and 506. Memorize that number. That number is going to be your identification system throughout this trip. We do not have pre-assigned buses at any point while we are in Ireland. When you board your bus in the morning, when you leave your hotel, you will give your ID number to whichever staff member is handling attendance for that bus. After everyone has seemingly boarded the buses, those bus captains will coordinate with one person from that hotel to make sure that every person who was staying in that hotel is accounted for. When we have that affirmation, then each bus goes on their merry way, and then we don't have to deal with that reporting in every time. We can just check that list of numbers every time we get back on the bus and make sure that everyone is accounted for. It's the easiest way to keep track of this many people and not have to pre-assign buses based on who is at which hotel. That was the most confusing part of this. This answers that. That means you'll probably be on a different charter bus every single day of this trip. So please make sure before you board a bus that it has in the window the name of the hotel that bus was attached to. That's going to be so important throughout this, and if there are any changes we need to make, we will have those announcements ready for you at breakfast at each hotel. We will be able to communicate from one hotel to the other, but that 3-digit number might be one of the most important things you have to memorize for this entire trip. I'm going to turn this over to Jeff right now so that he can address some issues on international travel with large groups, packing suggestions, things that you definitely should not pack as participants on this trip. And then again, if you have individual questions, you can save those for the end. Questions for the good of the group will be actually taken at the end of this. But please continue to give your attention up here.
Okay guys, one suitcase, which will go on the trucks, and then you will have they call it 2 carry-ons, some sort of a small bag, and then you can take a personal item. And as we talked about, make sure in the stuff that goes on the plane in your carry-on, stuff that goes in your carry-on, there's no liquids in any large bottles because those will be taken from you. We talked about the passport stuff. Suitcase is 50 pounds or less. Please make sure on that. The luggage tags that you're going to get, make sure that those are on the suitcases with information, your name and phone number and all that information, please. When we do a customs thing in Bangor, Maine, everyone will get off the plane with your carry-on stuff. They'll give us instructions when we land, and then the luggage will come off the plane. The instruments will not, but the luggage will come off the plane. You'll have to grab your suitcase, you go through customs, and then it's right back on the carousel back to the plane. And the process is very, very simple. My younger sister was actually a flight attendant for American Transair, and they stopped there several times with military groups if they would move back and forth between the United States, and she says it's relatively simple, and the charter company said it's about an hour and a half stop, which is off the plane, grab your luggage, customs, back on. So just be prepared for that. A couple other things. at meals, the organized meals, there will be tap water provided. There will be coffee and tea. Anything else that you would need to order, you would have to pay for. Okay, so just be aware of that. If you order a soda or something like that, they will charge for those. So please be prepared for those. You guys are the last band in the parade. Ireland is very, very excited. You are the largest band in the parade. And they want to make sure that the drum is towards the front so that it's on TV and it's showcased and stuff like that. We have a special company called Gibbons Removal and Storage that is taking care of the drum for us. And actually, what they mean by removal, they mean movie. It's a movie company, but they're called Removal and Storage. So, uniforms are just handed a note. Uniforms are in your suitcase and or a garment bag, okay? You guys are responsible for all your uniform and your parts and everything. The garment bag would be your second carry-on, so probably, but yeah, you can do that. That's not a problem. But your suitcase would probably be the best bet. Let's see, what else did I... euros. If you haven't gotten any now, you need to try and get some. I would have a few before you go, just to have them. Most banks can get them for you. If you or your parents or family are members of AAA, they can get them for you. You should be able to get them at the Indianapolis airport if the place is open. Sometimes it isn't always open. The other thing where a place you can get them is when we land, but the challenge will be is if there's a whole bunch of you needing euros, that'll take some time. One of the best ways to get euros is with a debit card and a bank machine, an ATM. But there again, just as I said, it'd be advisable to have those ahead of time, some ahead of time, because they're 500 people trying to get euros out of a few bank machines. That could take some time also. Bank machines ATMs work over there just the way they do here. You just put your card in, put your code in, and it'll spit out euros instead of dollar bills. The other thing that you must do is call your bank ahead of time and say, I will be in Ireland March 11th through the 17th, and they will put a note on your account noting that you're going to be there then, because if they see activity on your card that's normally in Indiana, that's in Ireland, they will question that and it could stop the card. So please make sure that they know that you're going to be in Ireland, okay? If you haven't already done it, we talked about passports. I would suggest making a copy for yourself, a couple copies to carry with you in a suitcase and or carry-on or both. The other thing that will happen that's kind of interesting, that's different from the United States, is if you make a large purchase, they will put a tax on it. It's called the VAT, the value-added tax. Most places to buy things like this, like when you're at the Barney Willow Mills buying souvenirs, if it's a large enough amount, the tax, they will give you information, forms, and sometimes they even give you a little card on how to get that back. Because when you leave the country, there's a system that you can turn stuff in, and then that tax, if you use a credit card or something, that tax will be put back on your card. You don't have to pay that, but it has to be a certain dollar amount that I don't remember what that is. In the hotels, this is another odd thing. Sometimes they do not provide washcloths. So if they have towels and hand towels, but they don't actually have washcloths sometimes. If you have to have a washcloth, what I would do is bring 3. One for each hotel, and when you get done with bring old ones. When you get done with the first one, throw it away. The second one, throw it away. Third one, throw it away. Or bring a Ziploc bag to put it in and travel with to the next hotel. So be aware of that. Hair dryers in hotels, I always get that question. I really don't care about a hair dryer. But anyway, I did look online, and I think most of them said they did. But I think Pat's posting the hotel stuff, so you can check online and see if they do. To plug things in, The voltage is, I believe, 220, so please make sure that you have proper equipment if you have to plug something in, so that you, because the plugs are the round things, they're weird, but make sure you have stuff to take care of that. If you have to charge something. The other thing too is internet. Most of the hotels do have it. Chances are it won't be free in the lobbies and in public areas. It will be free, but actually in the rooms, it a lot of times it's not free. So just be aware of that. Okay. All tips and everything for the trip are taken care of. We've taken care of all that. There will be 3 of my staff. Mark from the office, Bob Medworth, who traveled with us to New York, will be along. And then we will actually be meeting 5 people from Abbey Tours. And then I just hired a 6th person that's going to be along. Matt's going to be with us, who we've met before, to help take care of things. Medieval banquets, you'll get your assignment. There's 4 different ones. When you go to it, you'll know why there's 4 different ones, because you're in a castle and it's not very big. And that's where you eat with your fingers, and you get glasses of mead and things like that. And it's pretty cool. The itinerary that you're going to get emailed to you, and the one that you're going to get next Sunday, does have phone number in it, the phone that I will have, and we'll make sure there'll actually be 2 phones on the trip that are international phones, that we'll make sure you have those numbers. Your phone may work and it may not. Some of you may have already checked with your carriers to see if that happens, and some do and some don't, so just be aware of that. You might call to check. Some automatically work, some don't, so please be aware of that. Money, as I said, just be aware of what you're paying for. Most of you probably can look at the price in euros and figure out exactly what that is. I think it's $1.32 is the exchange rate as it was this morning. So please be aware of that. And at Taylor's 3 Rock will be a great evening, but there again, the building will be separated into, I think, 2 or 3 different areas, and everybody will get the same meal, and everybody will get the same show, and we will be doing that all at the same night. The Guinness Storehouse and the St. Patrick's Cathedral Day, they're trying to get that condensed a little bit, because right now it takes up quite a bit of the day, and with the touring and stuff, we're trying to give you guys a little bit more free time that afternoon. The Guinness Storehouse, you will get a chance to pour a pint, to practice, because sometimes they make designs on the top of it and things like that. And then when you actually get to the top, and I don't know if there's an age limit or not, but when you do get to the top, there's several floors that you kind of wander through and see how it's made. It's actually very interesting. But then when you do get to the top, if you would like, you can have a free pint. So be aware of that. The hotel in Dublin for the students is pretty centrally located. The hotels in the other cities are basically in the country, and so you'll get to see some of that and witness that. On the breakfast, they do have some odd things sometimes, as Mr. Conway spoke about. I don't know if we'll mention them now or not, but you'll just have to taste them and see what they are. Anyway, they don't have haggis. Scotland is the place that has the haggis. If you don't know what that is, I can tell you what it is.
Again, you'll have the opportunity to ask Mr. Person questions here a little bit later on, but I want to bring up our band physician, Dr. Sager, who has some advice for you regarding, again, the medical side of things when you're traveling anywhere, but especially when you're going outside of the States. So please welcome Dr. Sager.
Okay, I'm really excited to go. I hope you are too. Courtney sent out, I did just a real brief little short thing of things that you might want to bring along. I have some indications on what I'm going to be able to bring with me, so especially things like ibuprofen or Tylenol, something as a decongestant decongestants, some cough drops, some Pepto-Bismol, and a few Band-Aids. Good idea just to pack along and bring it so that you have it when you're in your hotel room. If you have prescription meds, the best thing to do is to keep it in the prescription bottle and bring at least a few extra doses with you, because it's contingency. We never really know that our plans are going to go as they are planned. If your prescriptions are restricted medications like narcotics or stimulants, or involve syringes, on the safe side, you may want to just have a statement or from your physician that says that yes, this has been prescribed for you. If there are any questions, then you have the answer. Diarrhea, even it'll come up. It's going to come up. The reason you may want to bring Pepto-Bismol was when people travel, even if they have the best sanitation in the world. The water is different, the food's different, the way it's prepared is different, and somewhere around day 4 or 5, sometimes your body just says, whoa. And so Pepto-Bismol is just a really good way to try to keep things calm when it seems like it's getting out of hand. So just a warning that that is not necessarily that the food there is not prepared well or the sanitation is bad. If you buy from vendors, or at a market, you're taking them. Just be careful with that. If you have medications that you take regularly, for those of you that can do math, you may want to calculate the time change. And we don't really have a big time change, so you may just want to kind of adjust your dosage by 3 or 4 hours here or there so that you're staying on kind of a normalized schedule. If you have any questions on how to do that, just contact me. Saturday, March the 9th, I'm going to be visiting with some family, so I won't be in this area, but I will try to get here by noon on Sunday, so if the worst thing possible and you're not feeling well, I'd like to take care of this well before, or talk to you well before we load the buses. Okay, I'm going to give you my phone number. Don't be calling me all the time. 574-870-6145. And I'm going to give that to you because if you wake up Sunday morning and you really are concerned about how you're feeling, call me. Now, when I say Sunday morning, I'm talking 8 o'clock or later. I am not talking 5 a.m., okay? But call me, because we may be able to work out something so I can come in earlier and catch you here on campus. Because we want you to be feeling good when you get on the buses, get on the planes. And I'll try to stay a little flexible on Sunday for you if something really bad happens. Questions? Quick questions? Okay, well, okay, yeah.
We have a blood drive Thursday right before we leave. Is it recommended or not recommended for those who have never given blood before or have respiratory problems to donate or not?
Well, we haven't, now you're talking like respiratory, you have asthma or you've got a cold? You've got asthma, get blood. Now, if you decide to give blood, hydrate well. Because I was telling you, it gets really dry on those planes, on those long flights, and you will want to hydrate well before you get on the flight. And then hydrate well while you're on the trip. If you don't hydrate well, you may not feel good for a few days. When you're on the plane on the long flights, even if you have the bladder of a camel, get up and go to the bathroom after a couple hours, because it is good to get up, move around, get the blood pumping, because sometimes you really pack into those airplanes. So get up, walk up and down the aisle. You don't have to go to the bathroom, walk up and down the aisle. So we want you to try to stay as healthy as possible, and I'm sure throughout the trip you'll be able to find someplace. If you have other questions, call over to the health. Oh, yeah.
Can you repeat your phone number?
574-870-6145. All right. Thank you.
One more quick thing before I turn this over to Jay for some general comments. The Dr. Sager's number is the most important number for you to have, but here is the second most important phone number. And the reason for this number, this is the number that you are going to give to your families. If something is going wrong back home, and a member of your family needs to get a hold of you for an emergency, and an emergency is not I miss you so much, but an emergency is someone's dead, someone's dying, you need to know this information now. This contact number is staffed 24 hours a day, and it will allow the folks at Visa Travel Consultants to get a hold of our traveling party wherever we are. That number is 1-800-616-1112. Once again, that phone number is 1-800-616-1112. When you receive your itinerary email the next day, it will include the names of all of the hotels and contact information for those. You are responsible for communicating to your families which hotels you are staying at, and that information is posted. Elliot right now had posted that stuff today, and it will remain posted through our departure. So please make sure that you check that. All right? Also, when we are done, when we finish the presentation side of this, before you leave, there are several items that you will need to pick up today, including luggage tags, some insurance cards, expectations for what you do here.
Okay. First of all, there are just some real quick housekeeping things I want to pass on to you. And I forgot to mention this early on, but Meg Hiley is running for a student government position. And Meg's down here in front, and she's actually passing around a petition. She has to get, I think, 1,000 signatures in order to get listed on the ballot. And it would be a wonderful thing to have a Purdue band member in a high place in student government. Another thing I'd like to tell you is that officially tomorrow morning, the president of the Purdue Band's Advisory Board, Vanessa Castagna, who has been a major supporter of our department, both in just giving her financial support. She's given almost $500,000 to Purdue Bands, but she's also one of the biggest fans we know. Vanessa's going to be appointed to the Purdue Board of Trustees tomorrow morning, and that's a pretty fabulous thing. I don't know if this is the first time we've had a band member on the Board of Trustees, but Vanessa is the former CEO of JCPenney, and she's an incredibly savvy business person. She's going to bring a lot to Purdue, and I wanted to pass that on to you. Now back to the trip. I think it's been mentioned to you, but it's very important that you make a copy, and not just the one that Pat has made. You make your own personal copy of your passport in case something happens, and you would lose it, and put it someplace where it's not going to be necessarily with your passport. Okay, put it someplace different. You know, Matt alluded to the fact that we're going to be loading, you're going to be on a different bus almost every day. And that's the case, but there are going to be two different times when it's going to be critical that we do things absolutely the right way, because we're going to be leaving hotels. When we first get to Ireland, we're going to be asking you to load buses based on the hotel you're staying in. Okay, there will be hotel names in the front of the buses. And so once we get there, we'll go to Galway, and then we'll come back to the hotel. And of course, the buses that have the hotel name in front will only go to that hotel. Now, the next trip, when we go to Cork, will be divided, the night before will be divided into two hotels, and so we'll be loading buses, and we'll have you put your luggage on certain buses depending on the hotel you're staying in. But when we get to Cork, all the buses will be going to every hotel. They'll be making stops and dropping off students and dropping off luggage, so that won't be as big a deal. Okay? One thing Bill Kissinger just passed on to us that he has found in investigating one of the hotels is that some hotels in Europe will turn off the heat late at night and not turn it on until the morning. And so you may want to be certain you bring warm clothes to sleep in. Okay? That's just a really good heads up. Another thing I wrote down is that when we go to the medieval banquet, I don't know how many of you have been to these places around the country called medieval times. Well, this is nothing like medieval times. There's not going to be any jousting or anything like that. This is a very authentic and a very intimate time where they don't bring a large number of people into the hotels at one time. We experienced this on our visit, on our planning visit, and it really is a very cool experience. You're going to be given some insurance cards today that you need to keep with you. We're handing those out today. Yeah, we're handing out the insurance cards today. We found out about 3 weeks ago that Purdue University requires every student traveling internationally to have an insurance card, and to the tune of $32 a piece. And so rather, we're not passing the expense on to you for the insurance card. Our department has paid for all the insurance cards to the tune of about $10,400 to insure everybody in the band. So, I'm sorry it can't be more, but at least we helped with $32 of your trip expense. The insurance cards are meant to do exactly what you would think. If there's something that happens abroad and you need to have insurance, these international insurance cards will help. Healthcare in Ireland is free, but the only trouble is if you have to seek healthcare, the lines can be quite long. From what I understand also, and this is kind of a gruesome thing to think about, but it is true that if someone were to pass away when you're abroad, sometimes getting the remains back to our country can be a very complicated issue. And I think that this insurance is there to help us with that particular issue. And when you think it won't happen to you, Max Jones was on a trip with his Concord band several years ago, and one of the band parents actually had a heart attack and died on that trip. And so Max knows firsthand just how complicated this can be. So it's a very important thing to know. In addition to the insurance card and luggage tags, we also have these little liquid carry-on containers for you that have been provided by College Station for our trip. It's got 4 little small, legal-sized liquid containers that you can put stuff in. Jeff talked about uniforms, and when we went to China, we did have to put our uniforms in our luggage. Now you're thinking, wow, that's going to take up a lot of space, and what do I do with my hat? We were able to bring our hats with us separately, just like a regular hat on the plane. So I carried my hat on the plane, and I put it up in the luggage bay and so forth. But we don't have the luxury of adding carry-ons onto this trip. So you are going to have to put your uniform in your bag. Okay, and you're going to have to start planning ahead. Some of you may actually have to really look carefully at the size of suitcase you have and so forth. Keep in mind the 50-pound limit. 50-pound limit is all there is. Okay. Also, before I get to where the rubber meets the road here, I want to just remind you that this weekend, Nine Irish Brothers is sponsoring what is a really cool event for Purdue bands. 10% of their total take on the day, either at the restaurant out on the levee or the one over in Lafayette, will come to Purdue bands to support travel. And it's not going to support this trip, but just support travel in general. We'll go into one of our travel endowments. But in celebration of our trip, this is kind of like a good luck trip for Nine Irish Brothers. We want as many people to take advantage of that as possible. So find your meals this weekend, Sunday afternoon, to go to Nine Irish Brothers and take advantage of it. Now, when I talked to you earlier today, I told you that we're having a huge travel party of 506 people. Included in the travel party, as I alluded to, is the Vice President and now a Board of Trustees member. And so it makes it even more critical that I address the issues of traveling abroad and good decision making. When we were in China a few years ago, we of course had a major language barrier. And so students were a little bit more apprehensive to go out and go to clubs and do that kind of thing at night. But they still did that kind of stuff. In Ireland, I think it will be the only thing that will keep you from doing that is just maybe the location at one or two of the hotels. That, especially the first couple nights, we're not going to be relatively close to a big metropolitan area. But the concern, of course, is always how we as a unit conduct ourselves both in uniform and when we're not wearing our uniforms and we're just regular band members out and about. Anytime you have to think about it this way, that anytime you are out and about with anything that says Purdue on it or Purdue band or anything like that, of course you're representing our band in the university. That's a given. And we want you to make good decisions while you're in Ireland, because we don't want to have to contend with disciplinary problems on the trip or when we get back. We want Dr. Exum to come back from this trip. By the way, she's also going to be traveling with the Glee Club this summer when they take their trip to Europe. We want her to come back from this trip and have nothing but the greatest impression of the All-American Marching Band. And the same holds true for the Irish people that we encounter. We also want Vanessa Castagna as a band alum and now a member of the Board of Trustees to come back with tremendous confidence in the fact that she can support our continuing travel around the world. And so, I can be very specific and just tell you, don't drink too much. Don't drink too much. Don't come back to a room and be so drunk that the next morning you can't get up and function. We had, and Dan, I mean this dead seriously, we had this problem with one student when we went to Detroit a couple years ago, and not only did the student not think about the consequences of his actions, but also the incredible burden he placed on his roommates. The incredible burden he placed on his roommates. These other three individuals had no idea what to do with the situation. It detracted a great deal from their trip experience, and all of a sudden, that one poor decision affected four other individuals immediately. And so we just ask that on this trip, you use good common sense, that you watch out for each other, that you don't take risks, that you get on the internet and you start to plan different restaurants and places you can go now that you know what hotels you're going to go to. And that you don't put one of the faculty members who have spent, and one of the staff members who have spent a tremendous amount of time planning this trip in a position to have to subject students to discipline. Okay? We'll talk a little bit more about that next weekend when we get together, but I just want to lay the ground rules for you, and that you understand that you're going to be under Purdue University rules and regulations while you're on this trip, because you're at a university-sanctioned function, and you just need to respond that way. Okay? Do any of you have any questions? Okay? When you ask your questions, say them really loud so people can hear. Ben, go ahead. Most of the things you're going to be attending will be casual dress, correct, Jeff? So you do not need to bring coats and ties and things like that. Elliot?
Would it be possible to send out this presentation to the fans so we can see all the information on it?
Yeah, you'll get the itinerary, which is basically this information.